Hey everybody, it's Adelia with Direct Cannabis Network, and I am here with Robyn Griggs Lawrence for DCN Talks today. Thank you, Robyn, for jumping on the call or the video call with us this morning.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
If you could please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm a longtime writer and editor, and for a really big chunk of my career, I spent really writing and promoting and covering natural living, natural lifestyles, mainly natural building. I had a magazine for a long time called Natural Home, which was basically kind of brought green building and green living ideas to the mainstream. It started in 1999 when green was not quite yet a thing. And so, really natural lifestyles and holistic and natural medicine have been my focus of my career for pretty much most of it.
Perfect. And we actually brought you on today because you have written and created the Cannabis Kitchen Cookbook.
Yes. Here it is. It just arrived today. Woo!
First copy.
First copy. It's always so exciting. This thing was really almost, it started as an idea 6 years ago. So it's,
wow.
To have a project that stopped and started along the way, but really took 6 years in fruition to finally have the final physical product. It's such a cool thing.
That must be a great feeling then, to actually have it in hand and everything. One of the quick questions I want to go before we go into the other questions is, where actually are you currently, where are you geographically located right now?
So I'm in Boulder, Colorado, which is, somewhat the epicenter of the cannabis movement. So, and that's really how this whole thing kind of started, was I was prescribed medical marijuana in 2009. And, I was a soccer mom. I had not really it just hadn't been in my world, until my gynecologist suggested it. And, it really opened up this whole world to me that I realized it was that really just that sea change in attitude where you kind of go, oh my gosh, this isn't a drug. This is a plant. This is an herb. I could cook with this. And, and it did. And having already had that natural medicine, bent and background, it just made so much sense to me. And so I feel like I was really lucky to be here because I've been in a place where this industry has grown up maturely and responsibly. And, it's just been such a joy to be able to be a part of that.
Wow, that's nice. And with that, going into a little bit about the book, can you give us an overview of what you have created in the book?
Mm-hmm. So this book is completely, it's a collective, and it's one of those, it takes a village stories, because this is 12 chefs who, shared their wisdom, their knowledge, their decades of working with this stuff. An ethnobotanist who really just taught me everything I need to know about the history of this, the rich history of this plant, and a barkeep, a wonderful mixologist who, taught me how to make amazing cocktails, and you only want one. But so basically this is a compilation of their wisdom and what they've learned from working with the plant over all these years, and also then they shared their amazing recipes. So there's everything from breakfast to juices, to juicing. That's one of my favorite sections. And to cocktails, to desserts, to main courses. So it covers the entire gamut.
And when you originally said, you first found out you were actually prescribed from your gynecologist, and they suggested that you go try medical marijuana. What was it like walking into your first dispensary?
Oh man, nothing. Well, first, and as I said, I really, I knew nothings, right? Yeah. So, I'm kind of walking in like, well, how's this going to go? And there's that kind of, I can't believe this is happening moment that I think everybody has when they walk in first. It's just like, really, like you think about, just all the times in the past that, just, it's just crazy. So it was overwhelming, but it was also, I really realized like, oh my gosh, I really know nothing about this. Like I didn't know the difference at that point between a sativa and an indica. So, and I had, a great bud tender who, had actually, had been going through cancer treatments. And so, he said, and he completely understood, my needs, what I wanted and all that kind of stuff. And it was a revelation to me too, that like, wow, this one works for something differently than this one. And this one, it's not all just like, hey, let's, get high.
Yeah.
Such a revelation, but it was overwhelming, and then I think that was the really genesis for this book was I realized I have no idea what I'm doing here. And, I've always I'm the conscious consumer, right? So
Yeah.
I wanted to know how do I know that this is organic? How do I, what does hydroponically grown really mean? And why can't I get outdoor here? And, I had so many questions, and he was great at, but I also knew I just needed to dig deeper and deeper. And, another really important thing that I learned very early on was, you eat too much of this and it's no fun. So,
Oh, yeah.
so that became a really important part of the book too, is, explaining to people of the, start low, go slow, and, don't, and if you overdo it once, you likely won't again. But, I'd love to prevent people from ever having to do that in the first place. You won't die, but you won't have a good night.
Yeah, exactly. And well, with that being said, as I mentioned, one of our writers, Jen, and
Mm-hmm.
AKA Chronic Travels, and we both actually were able to receive a preview of this
Sweet.
cookbook. And you're right. We found that it was very detailed, informative. You created a cookbook that was it was fit for, the novice
Mm-hmm.
or the connoisseur. Not just with cooking, but like you said, you go into detail about the different strains, about, taking it slow, or how to make it, or the sativas, the indicas, the different strains. Like, I think that was very informative, and, just explaining about the overall plant was maybe I know you kind of probably touched base on this, and this was because of the experience you had when you first got involved, right, in the cannabis industry.
It was, I just really, and I'm a researcher, I'm a writer, right? And so, and then I did, back into, there's so much more information online now, but back when I started, it was all, and it's kind of, well, do I trust this? Do I not? It scared me, some of the things. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to send like everybody to the hospital if I'm going to, all this terrible stuff, and also just completely differing ideas on how to make infusions and extractions, and there was if you didn't want to smoke it, what could you do? And so it was, I think we always, or at least for me, I write the books I need, and that book wasn't there, so I was like, okay,
this is what I need. Somebody else will need it too.
Yeah.
And still, though, you're still touching base on, like I said, it goes back to, the novice, but the connoisseur would still enjoy this book as well, with the recipes you guys provided.
And thanks.
Yeah, it's very knowledgeable, What was one of the biggest lessons you learned during the transition of creating this book? It did take you 6 years that you wanted to really create it correctly. So what was the biggest transition for you?
I think one of the biggest things is that I now really do understand what I'm looking for when I walk into a dispensary. So, not only do I know how to tell if it's fresh and if it's been processed well, and, if it, will work for me, but also I think I also learned I learned how to grow my own, which is another huge thing that I'm so amazingly fortunate that I can do here. So I have my, couple of little plants. And so I've that has really transformed my whole relationship, I think, with this, because it's, it's a cliche now, but it's farm to table, right? I am growing my own food and medicine in my backyard, which is completely amazing to me. And it's just really given me just a deeper connection with the plant. And I've learned how to use the entire plant. So we have recipes in here for juicing with fan leaves and using the fan leaves in a pesto. And, so right now it's time to pull the males out of the garden, right? Which is always a little bit disappointing, because it's like, oh, you beautiful, healthy plants. I'm sorry, guys. So, and now at least I can use the fan leaves. And so I'm making pesto, and
there you go.
It's not all a loss.
Yeah, there you go. And even too, I've noticed nowadays, not necessarily with cooking, but people are putting them in their flower arrangements.
Yes,
you can have a little pretty display.
That's become a big thing for weddings here, which is
has it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And then, one of my other favorite things I'm seeing people do is kind of put it as a part of an ornamental landscape. Right. So, it's just, if some of them are so trimmed up and everything that you wouldn't even know what it is, but, it's just there as part of the normal landscape, which is, I love, as part of normalization. Right.
Yes,
exactly. Plants in the garden.
Yeah. That's how it should be seen. Plant in the garden.
Yeah.
You said. What is actually one of your favorite if you can share, what is one of your favorite recipes in
Well,
the
I
book?
love the family pesto, just, that I
Uh-huh.
just mentioned, just because it is using a different part of the plant and it's delicious and I can jar it and keep it for a long time. Um, and then they kind of run the gamut. I love, there's a trail mix, a trippy trail mix recipe in there that is wonderful just because you can take it, it's portable and it's very, dosable. So you can have a teeny little bit or, a handful or, however you want to, but it's nice that I can take it, put it in my pocket and take it hiking. And then there are a couple of the desserts are all divine, if you're a sugar eater. And I also love the juices because that was another thing that I just wouldn't have thought to do it, to use it that way. And so the whole juicing section to me was kind of another revelation.
That too. As I mentioned, we were able to see this book, so
Yes.
I did try. I haven't tried it that much, but I did try the yogi, the Highland yogi.
Oh, and what'd you think?
I thought it was amazing. And that's the thing. You're right. You wouldn't think to incorporate it in those things unless you see it or you have a recipe in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was just a very good smoothie.
Good.
So what is one thing that you would like to share with the viewers that they may not know when reading this book?
Oh boy. I think the most important thing about this book really is the breadth of wisdom that's in it. I'm the scribe, and this is decades and decades of these, passionate experience and experimentation and working with patients and with the plant and with cooking. And so, I just think that the biggest deal here is that these chefs, they're not getting anything for this, except for they get to share their passion. And, it's huge. And to me, that's just, it felt so meant to be. Like the right people just showed up. And, yes, there was a lot of work in finding them and all that kind of stuff, but they came to the party and they made it happen. And really, this is just so much all about them, which is the coolest thing. And I think the other part of the book that is really just important is the information on the plant itself. And understanding, so many people are out there buying cannabis as medicine that is grown questionably and with lawn chemicals. And, we've gone through the organic food movement. We understand the importance of this. And so I just, there will be a bit of an agenda toward that in this book. And because that's my thing, and to all the chefs in here as well. They're cooking for health. Most of them are not, sure, everybody loves the other effects as well, but their primary motivation is to cook for health. And they all do it in their different ways, right? So, one is a paleo chef. One is a superfoods chef, one is vegetarian completely, one is, seed to table. So they do it in their own way, but they're all kind of, I think the thing that holds us together and perhaps sets us apart from other cookbooks is that serious health angle.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Again, that is important. There is so much of the brownies and all the sugary items, and they're great.
They are great, and people love them.
They are.
That's why they're out there, right?
Yeah. But it is something that we need, throughout the day, some people, and, they don't want to be eating brownies all day. They do need their vitamins. They do need their nutrients. So it does need to be incorporated with whatever kind of lifestyle they live, whether it's vegan or, a paleo as well. So when you touch base with the writers, the other chefs, was it a mix? Did some approach you? Did you go out to reach them?
It was mostly I reached out to them, although it was a little bit because in being in Colorado and kind of in the epicenter of it, some of it was like word of mouth. Oh, you should find this person. Yeah. So a lot of it was that. In the beginning, a lot was online researching and just finding, Herb Seidel, who's one of the chefs in here, was really one of the first guys to go out there publicly as a cannabis chef. So he was one of the first people I found because, he was out there publicly starting in like 2000, which, people weren't quite yet. So it wasn't, and that's why this took 6 years because we had to vet people. We had to, find them. We had, there was a lot. And then there were, 100 some recipes to test.
There you go. That was a good must have been good 6 years. I wouldn't mind that. But, and that's the thing you find, it's, you find the right people that fit and that have the same passion. And, all the ones that you pick, definitely it seems that you've all have come together for this.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like it's not about us, you know? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
You're sharing the whole, just the movement in when it comes to even just having dinner with somebody or cooking your meal for somebody or even for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Where would our viewers be able to find this book when it's available for purchase?
So it's right now pre-order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and so they can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much any Barnes and Noble nationwide, and it should be in most larger local bookstores nationwide as well.
Oh, perfect. And then the launch date
is September 15th.
There we go.
Yes.
September 15th. Congratulations.
And they can actually learn more at cannabiskitchencookbook.com.
Cannabiskitchencookbook.com. Perfect. Do you have any? Do you have an Instagram by chance?
We do, and it is cannabis_kitchen. And it's just getting set up. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, everybody just go check it out. Follow her on Instagram. One of the things is before we go, what advice would you give our viewers who are looking to provide a service or product in the cannabis industry?
I think you're in the right place at the right time, but it's an interesting world right now. It reminds me so much of the beginning of the organic food movement and the green building movements, where there's kind of a mix right now. There's a lot of people kind of circling because there's money in it, and there's a lot of people still here because they believe in the passion in it. And I think you can get lost in some of the cutthroat of the money people coming in. But there's still reason to be here. I mean, I think that's what's so cool about this industry to me, is that the people who are here are they're here because they believe in this plant and its healing qualities and what it can do for people. And, if you don't lose sight of that passion, I think that there's so much room in this industry to make things happen and to do great things for people.
Yeah, I like that. That's good advice. And you look at it too, because it will. I think you're right. It has that whole thing going on, but it'll level out.
It will.
Things will go back, and you'll see where you are or where everybody is at that time.
Yeah.
Are there any upcoming events you're going to be a part of?
So I'll be doing a signing at the Boulder Bookstore here in Boulder, Colorado on October 21st, and a presentation at a place called the Highland City Club here on October 27th. And then we're kind of just figuring out what the rest of the launch events are going to be, but those are my two locals for right now.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Well, at the end of the year, it'll just get busier.
Well, I hope so, yes.
Yeah. Well, I do want to thank you so much for chatting with me today and for sharing us some more information about the Cannabis Kitchen Cookbook.
Thank you, so.
We are very excited for your launch day. Congratulations on your first copy. Yes. That's amazing.
So
and yeah, everybody check her out on Barnes & Noble and Amazon to pre-order your book. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.